And game number 2, or excuse me, 3, taking place on Dragonshire.
An interesting one. We don't see a bunch of Dragonshire
Not
anymore.
from these teams.
Not
yeah.
from these teams.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to think. So far, they've kept up with a lot of the rotational advantages, and you know, it's something that you and I discuss a lot with Tempo Storm. It's somehow in the mid game they control a rotation to the top lane, somehow double up on camp spot lane whenever it's available, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, how all of a sudden are we like 2 levels behind? And all of a sudden it's a DK, and you're like, yeah, I think we're about to lose, right? And that's kind of sometimes if teams can control those rotations, we'll see if Dragonshire is something that, you know, Simplicity can kind of keep that going on.
Normally, I would be like, I'm pretty skeptical to see Simplicity make this shift. But obviously, they've got momentum, and they look like a new team right now. I feel like a lot of the choices, you go, you know, we might want to give them the benefit of the doubt first. But the biggest thing is that kind of adjustment that I was praising in the last game with identifying the weakness of the compositions, adjusting on the fly within the draft, and then absolutely executing clean. This is one of the best maps to make that happen. If you make a misplay within the 4-man of the draft and then you get that punishment, adapt on the fly, and then execute, it looks very silly on a map like Dragonshire. So suddenly I'm going, I feel really good here for Simplicity. The way they've been able to dominate rotations on Shrines on a map where they debatably shouldn't have, again, that caters to Dragonshire. So I feel like they're going to feel pretty good here.
One thing that I will find particularly interesting, obviously No Tomorrow has first pick. So, you know, we've kind of seen this priority solo laner. If it's not Blaze, it's Sonya when you look at Equinox. If we see an early Blaze pickup on the side of Simplicity because they only have 2 picks before that second ban phase, I wouldn't be surprised here if they want to try and play around that. But No Tomorrow, they have 3 picks before that second ban phase, so they might be able to kind of manipulate that in their favor to kind of make sure they don't get choked out unless they really try and get wild like we saw last round.
Yeah, the one thing that I want to see from them is avoiding that Genji and committing to something more like a Junkrat somewhere on the back line that isn't the only wave clear it feels like No Tomorrow's willing to commit to, which conveniently enough, it's not all wave clear heroes like Jaina. It feels like that is the only one within the arsenal, and it's like because it caters to that team fight just well enough. But Jaina, she's great at clearing the waves, but she has to commit her damage to it with that Blizzard to be able to make that happen, and it doesn't. You get to do one or the other. Jaina can do both, but she doesn't get to do both at the same time, and so I want to see them find a way to avoid a wave from that Genji, or if they do commit down the Genji, make sure somebody has the wave clear so we don't see that exact same conundrum kind of unfold that we got on towers.
The Garrosh Diablo prioritization. Diablo, I believe when I was looking at this map, doesn't do too well, but Garrosh, it's a map where you kind of expect him to do okay. You know, the one thing I talk about on this battleground in particular is early invades on camps. Normally you're like, oh, we want to try and maybe invade this siege camp, but Garrosh is like, okay, and then he'll just toss you over into his fort. You know, the way this map is structured, obviously, things look a little bit different. So No Tomorrow, see if they try and make a play around that Maiev Medivh that we saw in game number 1. They were willing to let one go. Simplicity's like, well, we'll let them both go, and then played around that. We'll see if it happens again.
Taking quite a bit of time here, but understandably so when you consider the cleverness over the draft that we saw in the last game from Simplicity. It feels like some, you know, extra thought may be necessary here for No Tomorrow to get the recovery. Commit to the Maiev. Assuming we're still going to see that Medivh taken away. Simplicity was willing to kind of let that go through in game 1, though. It looks like they might be willing to do it again. I will say the Medivh in game 1 looks good. I don't feel like it had what I wanted out of a laning, out of a Medivh composition, but teamfight-wise, it definitely didn't look too detrimental for No Tomorrow. But Dragonshire is also a more lane-heavy map, so I can see the argument into going like, wait, if we can control rotations on Shrines against a Medivh comp, we definitely can do it on Dragonshire.
I really want to know this. I just absolutely love that we have Phoenix in the Nexus right now, because normally it's like, all right, who's going to get Hanzo? But now you have to ask yourself, who do you want, Hanzo or Phoenix? We actually saw Phoenix hover there for a brief moment. It looks like they're going to settle on the Medivh. But now, if you give up a Phoenix in this rotation, all of a sudden you can be like, we'll take the Hanzo and be just fine with it. If you give up the Phoenix, or the Hanzo, you'll take the Phoenix, right? And I think that right now, it's not normally like, oh, well, they have this one oppressive hero, we're going to have to, you know, find some way to play around it.
Also, one thing I failed to realize when looking at the draft data we have so far between the teams, we're yet to see No Tomorrow willing to even commit to the Phoenix. In game 1, we see them ban. In game 2, they have the option with their 1-2 and let it go through to the 2-3 of the first pick team, which is Simplicity. So Simplicity not banning the Phoenix, I feel like, is just calling out and saying, can you even play this hero? The answer is yes. we found that answer. Well, some would argue that picking the hero is not the same as playing it. I'm amongst that group, but in fact, it will be on the side of no tomorrow here for game 1 or game 3.
So Hanzo, we actually saw the Hanzo, I think, kind of be. I think it was Simplicity. They let it go through, and they ended up getting it later, post-second ban, but that was Infernal Shrines. Here, I feel like Garrosh obviously has high priority for these teams, but again, the priority on the Blaze, the point that I brought up is, where does the solo lane prioritization come in? You can expect to Haka Blaze in some regard for Prismaticism. You know, Malthael continually is falling off right now, but again, they get the Blaze early. I like this pickup by Simplicity. Now No Tomorrow has to decide for Equinox. Are you going to go Dahaka or are you going to go Sonya? And I think that No Tomorrow wants them to go Sonya.
I agree. And with that, if they end up committing to that, how that functions with the kind of how you have to play towards Dragonshire, it makes it pretty predictable. I feel like from beginning to end, you're right. The priority on towards that off lane with the kind of choke out was a lot of why the plays were able to be made in the draft for Simplicity in the last game. And they carry it over here, forcing the hand of No Tomorrow. And to be honest, that off lane, since Equinox has made the rotation, has been a hot topic for No Tomorrow. It's by no means is this a, you know, kind of new circumstance that we're dealing with here in week 9. Malfurion Garrosh is the rotation, having the opportunity to ban out the Stukov now if they would like to do so in the second ban phase. First up, though, Simplicity has to decide what they want to take away and if they want to commit more to that side lane.
We saw the Dahaka hover for a moment, and then we saw Genji as well. And if I'm in this instance, I love the Dahaka ban. And then, I don't know about the Malthael. Dahaka screams to me a little bit more, I guess, when I think of what No Tomorrow that we've seen in recent history since they've brought Jin in.
What if you're going to run another 2-1-2? Would banning the Malthael make more sense in this type of situation? I'm trying to figure out. I don't think so. Malthael, actually, maybe. Malthael's wave clear has definitely gotten better post-rework, but I don't know if that's enough, because typically when you are wanting to make that happen, you have to be considering how much wave clear your opponent has to deter your siege capabilities. So you'd be wanting to ban that out, put the Sonya in that type of situation. But again, Sonya and Malthael, comparative in wave clear. So it's a pretty curious ban there from Simplicity.
You know, sometimes I see Malthael, you think about heroes with high health pools or some way to get through that. Diablo comes to mind. They're going triple warrior again, but I also wondered, like, Stitches, but you don't want to play a Stitches into a Garrosh, because the minute you get hooked in, Garrosh's like, well, I'll trade places with you. But
Jay, how this game is about to get really scary.
I will say, this map in particular, this feels a little bit different to me.
Than of the last game?
Yeah, in terms of the laning setup and control.
I agree with you, but I think it's different in how it acts. It's not different when it comes to the impact. If anything, I feel like it's going to be better for them, because on Dragonshire, if you control the waves as effectively as I'm assuming they're going to be able to with this last pick, you can probably, I mean, Malfurion, Stukov taken off the table, whatever backline support you would want in that. I don't think it's going to be Alex in this case, but whatever you do, stick that with the Tyrael Hanzo or the tri-lane and mid. You can't lose that rotation whatsoever. You kind of match that within the 1-3-1 that you're running, but then you can get that split pressure towards the top half. Malthael wasn't banning out, and I feel like that's a little bit curious because he's more susceptible towards those ganks, so I would have liked to see him up there, and again, maybe ban out more of like that Sonya, which has been locked in here. And then No Tomorrow still end up committing to that Jaina.
How you feel about a Lucio?
I personally, the Sonya makes it a little bit scary along with the Garrosh. It's kind of hard to move up and clump up and kind of death ball into it. And you have enough pause buttons on other heroes that I don't think you have to commit to it. I will say, not the option I would have liked to see as an alternative, but
that surprised me.
Don't mind this. I definitely would have liked to see, I think Rhaegar would have been my go-to out of all the options available.
The route that they're going down with the Ariel, we haven't seen very good results thus far. It hasn't necessarily been in optimal circumstances, but Hanzo auto attack build definitely has to be a thing. Getting Scatter Arrow energy supply to Ariel I think is going to be a little bit too difficult. So auto attack, you can go auto attack again. Auto attack at level 1 with the Redemption to get the faster auto attacks, and then the armor reduction at level 7. Obviously, Explosive Arrow at level 4 is going to be your primary source of kind of getting that burst damage in onto the Garrosh, but you kind of wonder, where do the kills come in? Because you can whittle a Garrosh down, but if you're not able to pack that punch to be the finisher, kind of wondering, like, do they have enough damage here? Or do they even need it just so they play around rotation?
You're posing on the side of No Tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no, on the side of Simplicity.
Oh, on the side of Simplicity.
They have enough to get the takedowns.
I don't think they need to.
just play rotations.
That is in the back of their minds right now. They are dominating rotations with this type of composition. It's pretty much what you want to be doing is with the 3-man. Again, your 4-man into this 3-man, you aren't going to be able to see. Just one of the best anti-siege, as a tri-lane together. Then Blaze is kind of prepping the bottom lane. If you match into that, then you can match with the 4 while you have an advantage in the rotation. We've already seen them kind of make this happen once. But the difference is the top lane. And if they see that split focus and commit anything towards the top half of the map, which I'm expecting to see Simplicity with this kind of new and improved version, you're going to see a mid-game rotation to the top half, take out a front wall, and then suddenly you go, wait a minute, abuse that once you see the overreaction to the top half, cycle it towards bottom, and it's front wall, front wall, front wall. Suddenly No Tomorrow looking for a single structure available before even a Dragonite, is picked up.
I'm curious about the rotations of, obviously Dahaka generally you'll have in that top lane because he can use that global to come down for the invades, and then you have a 5 versus 4. But then I'm also wondering if you keep Blaze in that top lane, then you can bring Dahaka in to be the gank style because he has the global. So the priority on the global play to me is going to be particularly interesting.
I will say, in my mind right now, as it stands, definitely put Dahaka up in that top lane rather than putting, the Blaze. And it's purely based off of the global rotations for pressure in the mid game towards those camps on the bottom half, that you can get the split pressure on the top half with the Dahaka split pressure out, but then Blaze being able to prep the wave on the bottom half and then be able to, make that invade if ever you feel like it is necessary from your opponent's side of things. Keep Blaze as, again, that solo laner on bottom, and then his job is pretty much just don't die, while the tri-lane and mid makes all the work happen. It's going to be Zuna on the Blaze.
He's going to want to go in. There's a 2-man stun as Equinox eats a bit of damage. We also see a little bit of a change-up. Mobile offense here coming out on the side of the Phoenix, making sure to get extra auto attack damage every time he moves while he's unmounted.
So this is not normally a big deal, but notice how Simplicity is failing to be able to keep up with the rotations, right? This is very different than what we saw with them committing not only in game number 1 with their ability to manipulate the rotations pretty dominantly over the members of No Tomorrow, but in the last game where they committed to the double solo with a 1-3-1, they were still able to dictate the control over a majority of it. Right now, the 4-man, even without having dominant wave clear, just kill potential, they're zoning off Simplicity. That is not what you want. With this type of composition, again, normally I don't complain about mid-wave early game. I try not to nitpick about anything and everything my brain can pick apart in a game. But this is one of the moments where compositionally Simplicity needs to set the tone. They have to be able to set the tone. Otherwise, they're going to meet the Garrosh, Jaina choke within the Bermuda Triangle. And the 1-3-1 doesn't matter because they're still behind because they're afraid of kill potential. And they never use the rotational advantage in what their comp is built around. It's one of those weird moments where I actually feel like they're already a lot farther behind in this game, just how they dealt with the first wave. If you don't want to match your opponent because you're afraid of the kill potential, cycle elsewhere. But they didn't do that either, so they're behind in every single wave from the beginning of the game.
I mentioned about trying to invade against the Garrosh comp in the early time. You normally try and use that Dahaka to kind of rotate down, maybe get an early invade, but Garrosh is like, we welcome an invade because, again, being able to throw you over to the fort is potential kill in and of itself. So right now, Simplicity, I think they're just going to be a bit passive here in the early game.
Yeah, and you also see them adjusting and keeping Blaze towards the middle lane again rather than having him get the pressure towards the bottom half. I do feel like this is going to be a safer choice, but what it does do is limit any counterplay from Simplicity to get the rotation towards top. So suddenly, where normally I would be, overly kind of praising towards that laning decision-making from Simplicity I was for the first half, I feel like not only because the tempo not set over the first objective, but then also keeping the Zuna and the Blaze in the mid lane, they're very much saying we only have one way to make this happen, and the kill potential of No Tomorrow should be enough to kind of threaten it back. And you already see that happening here as they get the invade.
Dahaka coming in with the brush stock behind that, as well as Zuna on the Blaze. That is a massive stun there, and that is going to put Shrite in a terrible spot. And King Caffeine and team on the assault. Jin's going to be able to walk away, but that big-time stun there by Zuna.
That was a huge win for Simplicity, and again, the moment where they can kind of take a moment to recollect themselves over the laning situation. Once they get control, it's easy for them to maintain it, but they need to find a way to get that. And with that Jaina pick up there, not being afraid of the threat potential, now they can cycle that damage over the tri-lane on the bottom half of the map and really abuse what their composition should be great at.
It's going to be a toss in. Nice detainment strike by K1 Pro. Give his team a little bit of control. See Hosty getting that last shot in on that tower, giving them a bit more of experience, get more control over here in the spot lane.
So see, Jaina has to rotate mid to match onto the Blaze, and now the question is, where do we see Zuna consistently go? Does he match bottom or does he go top? This time he's going to go bottom, and again, this is all possible because of that one pick. But notice how he's not willing to commit to bottom to be able to help with this wave. I feel like something has to be done more with this mid laner now because we have an advantageous laning setup for Simplicity, But again, look how much downtime this, Blaze up in mid is not making anything happen. And I don't feel this is so much Zuna's responsibility as much as it is the entire team and how they kind of make it work with the comp.
An interesting setup. Daka has gone down to basically protect that Blaze in case he wants to get the push out. But we see the rotation to the Knights here by No Tomorrow, which is a particularly interesting moment because that bot lane is already under assault. And if they can move forward and just get shots like this in, this is such a huge amount of control that Hostian team can get here. Yeah,
pretty much Simplicity has opted towards we want to dictate the bottom control of the map over and over and over again. And honestly, I feel like you are right in the fact that No Tomorrow should have been, that was a bold move. To risk that much time to commit everybody up towards the top half. With that in mind, Simplicity really didn't make much happen with the bottom half. I would argue, again, that comes down to the Blaze trade-off with the laning situations they have here. Invade attempt from, from Jin. Nice interrupt from K1 Pro on that detainment strike, making sure that first Groundbreaker did not connect.
That was such a team effort. He had used his Eldruins to check over that wall, and then he ended up going back. He's like, guys, I need a dismount. They got the dismount and the knockback, but Calf, he barely gets out. But, the whole thing about that night camp is that it allows, you talk about Blaze in that mid lane, it's allowed Blaze and Dahaka to basically try and control that. We actually saw Dahaka rotate down before that night camp was fully cleared, but having Blaze and Dahaka, that's more than enough wave clear to be able to bypass that. So, they lose 70, 80% of a tower there, and that's it.
Honestly, No Tomorrow is in a very good position in this game. For how, again, I feel like dominant we could have seen Simplicity be within how they have this lane set up in a majority of this game. It's very clear they aren't going to have the kind of exact same response and adaptiveness is the word I think I'm looking for here when it comes to the play that we saw out of the last game. And so I feel like No Tomorrow, they've got to be thankful. At this point, just look to pick up Giants and then cycle for kill potential in any lane that you can get. Like this type of invade, if Simplicity wants to take that trade, you look at that and you go, yes, please, be willing to try and take the skirmish because this is where our comp is far better than yours.
No Tomorrow picking up their Giants. On the other side was Simplicity, but here's a priority on the top lane. There's going to be a drag into the stun. See if he's got a whirlwind available to make himself out. That's feeding Frenzy right there as you get the cooldown onto that drag again. And that's the rotation. I wondered when and where would it happen? And right there, it was perfectly done. But that does not happen without Prismat landing 2 drags in that short amount of time.
Yeah, very well done from Priz. And again, that is something that I feel like should have been happening for a lot of this game so far. That shouldn't be happening this late, or at least the Blaze should have a higher impact over the bottom lane. But for now, it's kind of been towards the mid, but he will be able to pick up the Dragonite whenever he's successful in one of those areas. The time frame and window that opens up because top lane's winning for Simplicity after the pick. Bottom lane's been winning with the tri lane that is oh so dominant. Leads to Zuna saying thank you for the first Dragonite and Heroics here.
Okay, there's a lot of players that will just run in and start doing damage without clearing the minion wave. Figured Zuna would just run in, start face tanking everything, but Zuna's like, nah, I've been around this game too long. I'm just gonna prep this a little bit. The longer that thing stays alive, Dreadnought, the more value this composition gets here at the bottom, especially, that's gonna be a takedown onto Jen, but especially because you have that threat of 10, you can split your team just a little bit because you have the threat of those heroics. You can see Hosty did use his Dragon Arrow there just to buy a little bit of time. So now by being a little bit more cautious with this, you get the split push pressure. You allow this Dragonite to stay alive much longer. You look up at the scoreboard, a 1-level lead is now 2, and it's going to go up even further.
When No Tomorrow do pick up their heroics, they might be able to get that kind of fight back, but without that, it's really what does Simplicity let them have. Giants will be up immediately after this rotation. Simplicity has an amazing double stack, triple stack composition with the pressure on the bottom half. Excuse me, it's Knights. How long do we have Giants? They have to be soon here. 1 minute out. I guess a minute out for both of them. Timer's off a little bit here, but either way, when they spawn over that minute, take the Night Camp, take the Giant Camp, pressure it out, commit with the 4-man in the bottom half, have Dahaka split pushing with the Night Camp on the top half. You'll round your 13 talents here as you meet their key front wall on bottom. It's a huge power spike and huge play here for Simplicity and an opportunity. Might be denied though. No Tomorrow make it to the camp first.
No Tomorrow with that even talent tiers, this might be their best chance to deny that potential snowball that you were just talking about. Something that we've seen Tempo Storm do quite a bit. Dahaka still pushing top. He hasn't made his attempt for the brush stock, but they get the toss in on the K1 Pro. Here comes Dahaka, Dreadnought.
Yeah, the taunt immediately going on to Ariel. Sanctification coming in too late. Prismatic comes into the back line and actually hits a nice isolation, but no kill yet. Hosty trying to kite out. He's one shot inside of that bunker, but so is Jaina falling low, but into the fray is going to throw him away. Jin keeping the team up. Here comes the salvo from Casanova, and that's going to be kill number 1. There's a 2 and a 3rd, actually, as you've considered the Ariel dropping before. No Tomorrow get the team fight that they need with their skirmish composition and set Simplicity back a mile in this game.
It's some of those times where you're 12.5 if you're Simplicity and you're like, could I maybe just play a little bit more passive? And No Tomorrow, they forced the action and they forced a response. Simplicity's response was, we'll fight, but big credits to Jin for setting a lot of that up by getting the toss in initially. We're gonna see the stun. Indomitable force to be used. Jin walking away. Hosty trying to use a little bit of geometry to get that down, but we're going to see the fort fall in the meantime.
They're getting big desperate here with this initiation. They're taking a lot of minion damage for free. Zuna still kind of in chase there. Sets the oil aflame 10 seconds out. Jaina will be able to pick up top for free. Dahaka's not, I believe, used the brush stock.
He just came in. Yeah, he just came in directly into that root. So that's why it was like, did he do anything? Nah, he just kind of got rooted. So came in the middle of that.
So it's very important that No Tomorrow, they didn't end up taking the top one for free, but it's not going to set them back too much if they can get this invade. They do not get the invade within the time frame. So now they have to fight over the bottom half of the map, where that is going to be the shrine desired by the team, not only with a global, but over the side of the map that they want to fight. So this is not good for No Tomorrow whatsoever when it looks at how this kind of laning setup has been posed so far over the second Dragon Knight phase.
Zuna dancing around, making sure not to get hit by that Groundbreaker, but holding position for now, trying to see if his team wants to come in. They're going to turn their attention towards Prismat in the top. The game since you talked about Dreadnought, if you just watch the mini-map, he's like, look, I'm here. We see the rotations, the potential rotation. He dips on out.
So I'd like to see Prismat cycle to bottom and all Simplicity now rotate up towards top. The only objective on the map is, in fact, that night camp that just spawned. Everybody knows that this is being picked up for No Tomorrow. So you take the global, put it again in the lane that you know you're going to be split pressuring out with in the long run, as No Tomorrow gets the pressure on the top half. And then you don't have to worry about that initiation. And if that doesn't happen, then you can get the clear for free and end up probably pressuring out the Dragon Eye either way. No Tomorrow, they take the camp and just kind of walk away from it. They're like, you know what, we're going to cycle out and try and force a fight. But this is a pretty clear rotation because of the desperation within those movements.
You can see Dahaka on the minimap was trying to recapture that. But the main focus here is that mid lane, that fight. Nice body blocks there by King Caffeine. Hosty got hit by that Groundbreaker, but you can see Jin not able to close the distance there. They're still holding position, looking for a fight. Experience relatively even here as Simplicity and No Tomorrow stand off here. Simplicity 2-game lead, trying to close it out.
I feel like Simplicity's lack of lane swapping and pressure over the past minute is a huge setback for them, and it is going to be maybe hold up here as we see the Welly being dropped on the top half. Prismat's going to be the focus. Dragon's Arrows end up coming down. Zuna on the back line, not able to get the jet propulsion, but the flip, the pull onto Jin. Sanctification is going to be dropped. Jin trying to make it out, but he will not be able to do so. Salvo thrown down for Casanova. Simplicity with 1 kill. They want to make more happen. The isolation already there. The drag follow-up. Prismat, man, the guy's a monster here on the Dahaka. He's going to get the top shrine while the rest of the team does work onto Jay Shrite. There's a Dragon Knight immediately behind this J-Hawk.
Things now taking place here. Simplicity they held. Again, Prismat, such a key component to a lot of what we're seeing happening here for Simplicity. He stayed up there. We saw the gank attempt on No Tomorrow, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. I think we might be in a bad spot. It's kind of like that. Remember there's this time I'm at the river when I'm in Florida. I'm walking down by the water. I was like, wait a minute. What if there's an alligator down here? It scares me. I think they got to that moment where like, wait a minute. What if there's an alligator there? Alligator got him. By the way, I lived.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know if you know that.
I didn't know that. That's a, riveting tale there, young lad. Thank you for that one. Night Camp, Dragon Knight, going to make it here towards that keep front wall. 16's still nowhere to be found for No Tomorrow, and likely going to be why this keep ends up falling. Hold up, though. Zuna going to get flipped over, eat the taunt. Blizzard not going to land quite there. Bunker forced out. Sanctification should be coming off cooldown over the next couple of seconds. Dragon Knight's getting ripped through, though, as it's at 20%, and that keep is kind of unscathed. 16, still nowhere to be found. We'll see if Simplicity tries to give him a false sense of security. Tranquility ends up being used, but he's going to get kicked away by the Dragon Knight. Tomster not getting the value he wants.
Here comes the scanner. Zuna was low. You can see the priority target's going to be there, but it's not enough. King Caffeine, however, is going to get tossed back in. Crystal Aegis is going to be there. Let's see if he goes down. The heal comes out. They get the trade onto Malfurion. They're looking for more. The into the fray onto Equinox is going to save his life, but Jin might be not long for this world as Prismat lands yet another drag. See if he can get another one. They're trying to get the minions here so they stop taking that damage.
Ariel is one of the best supports when looking at these type of sieging circumstances.
Got
Zuna
him.
hits the jet propulsion, and that's enough for another kill here. With 3 members on No Tomorrow dead, it should be Simplicity, especially after that bunker use, confirming first keep of the game here, 13 minutes in. If they back out, prep out this camps, just paint the map blue, and then set themselves up for an insta DK, we might be looking at that 20 spike, secondary keep, maybe even game.
All of a sudden, these last few fights definitely going Simplicity's way. You know, we got a good initiation, but again, so many times, K1 Pro, King Caffeine, Prismat, they're all making the necessary plays. And in the middle of that, Zuna on that blaze making plays. Everybody individually is making plays, but it seems a lot for this team, Dreadnought, has always been communication and coordination on whether they could get on the same page. And right now, these last few days, a lot of what they're doing, whatever they're touching is turning to gold outside of a few slip-ups. For the most part, this team is looking really strong.
Yeah, I mean, they're really, I don't feel like we ever seen a team with as drastic of kind of, you know, aggression and success other than that of Simplicity, where one day you can have, you know, the kind of where is this coming from type deal, and then other days we have today where it's just like, how do you even stop these guys? I mean, there are, you know, very small moments where you and I have pointed out where it goes, maybe they should be, maybe this, but it is so few and far between that I feel like it's a, you know, not the same as maybe Tempo Storm, but pretty close.
If you look at the big picture,
yeah,
it's the main thing, right? I mean, you could have like a tiny little, like it's unnoticeable, right? But big picture definitely looking good. That drag there.
Top Shine's going to be picked up by Blaze. So this is a worst-case scenario for No Tomorrow now, as they have a rotational kind of, you know, weakness as the fact that the fight over bottom is going to be desired by Simplicity because that's the shrine they want, but they also have a double camp taking the fort on top. They need this pick. They get the taunt and the flip over, but Aegis from K1 is going to save King Caffeine for now. He forces the Sanctification and the bunker, even Tranquility coming out from Tomster, but Phoenix is a bit too far out. First kill there. Jin able to flip it back, trying to kite out. Indomitable use and the heal, but that pull from Prismat is going to reel Equinox back in here.
The roots and the slow are going in. King Caffeine keeping up the assault, trying to see if they want to take this fight. Here comes Prismat on the backside. Jin goes down. See if we get the tongue land. Shrite, he's taking all the damage. There's going to be the tongue. That's going to be Jaina going down. Equinox looking like he's not going to be much longer for this world. Who needs a DK Dreadnought when you can just walk straight up to...
Well, actually, we need
You
a
could just get the
Dragonite.
DK,
Yeah,
yeah.
actually, the answer is Simplicity to that question.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Do you want to finish
look.
it? Because I really want to answer Simplicity.
Well, I mean,
Who
30,
needs a
30,
Dragonite
30.
when you have 4 people dead, 20 advantage, and a keep? Well, the answer is you're right. Simplicity maybe not, and so much so that the delay on the mid Dragonite, they're not going to get that Dragonite, at least not within the time frame they wanted. And now he's going for the core.
It still should be. They have bunker. They have everything.
They have pretty much, yeah. There's no way to be able to stop this.
This could have already been down to 70%.
All I heard is Simplicity still backing out, picking up the Dragonite here, Jay. Now, 90% and counting.
Wait, go get camps.
Saints is not off cooldown quite yet. Salvo going to be thrown down, hitting all 4 members.
Oh!
And Hosty looks him in the eyes and says, not today, young lad. Just dishing out that damage. Jin trying to make it happen, chasing down Zuna, hits the Warlord's challenge, gonna lock down King Caffeine as well. Dragonite now making it onto the court. That is at 82% here, 16 minutes in. Simplicity just buying enough time as that Dragonite ends up taking this game, and this will be the series.
K1 Pro has made, you know, we don't see a lot of Ariel, right? But the manner in which he's played Ariel, you're like, wait a minute, like, dude's killing it. The saves that he had on King Caffeine there, the Crystal Aegis he's thrown out. Is that the proper pronunciation of multiple Aegis?
You know, that's a word in itself that I've had enough to, you know, tweets, kind tweets that are very, you know, well composed, probably, you know, with some beneficial criticism, disguising, telling me how to say the word Aegis. And some are Aegis, some say it's Aegis. There's another one that is a little bit more accented that I don't even dare say on a live broadcast. So, let's go with, let's make our own. You know, I'm cool with Agi. You want to go with Agi? No? Okay.
Actually, yes. Oh, look, Hosty again, 6-0, killing it on that damage. The other fun thing is when you get Ariel. Ariel at 16 has a couple of options to go. This time, going in, your crown target had extra auto attack speed, and Hosty went into that auto attack build. He was killing it in the later parts of that game. That level 16 obviously has the range, he has the skill, he has the Hanzo. Things worked out very well in that late game. The shield